Mick isn't the pick, but he might take one of your players.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for your support. In the meantime, this episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what could be around the next corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, Pathfinder, or Armada and go find your next big adventure. Check them all out today at NissanUSA.com. All right, I know I've been MIA. I had to say goodbye to my car and everything in the midst of Sweet 16, the madness of March, everything going crazy. But you know what's also going crazy? It is the transfer portal season. In the middle of the tournament, with coaches going crazy, coaching changes left and right, maybe USC losing their head coach. Who cares? Because the Bruins are hitting the portal. They're not looking for a coaching search. Louisville's not going to go pick Mick Cronin. Mick Cronin is going to go steal and grab some top-tier scorer off either a mid-major, a high major, that in-between status that looks to make this team even better. And while it might be a birthday wish of Adem Bona to get some interior scoring, it's our wish that Bona stays. UCLA needs to get more scoring, more shooting, specifically consistency from a guard aspect. Now, we hope the Bruins bigs can grow. There hasn't been anybody currently that I've seen that's hit the portal, to my knowledge. And for UCLA, we're waiting to see what's going to happen with this roster. Mick Cronin, they've been looking for people to add on. We're waiting for a Dem to make a move. What's going to go on with this roster? Well, there's two guys that Cronin's either reached out to, or one actually has a crystal ball to UCLA in the portal. Let's take a look at the crystal ball. First, as I referenced, the Louisville is Mick the pick, yada, yada, yada. Sky Clark, I looked at 24/7 Sports. You look at the transfer portal, you can see who might be crystal balled, who might be someone that's coming to UCLA. A lot of guys still entering the portal. There are some top 10 guys the Bruins can go after. But Mick Cronin, where is he going to go? He might go back to find somebody in the land of Kentucky. And why not anybody better than Sky Clark? 6'3" guard, currently a sophomore, will be heading into his junior season, already went to Illinois and then transferred to Louisville. And the big thing is, now with the new mandate, you can't stop two-time transfers. You can go after more guys, especially if they have a decent GPA, good grades. UCLA can take them. 6'3", 205-pound guard from Los Angeles. And recently, this kid, Sky Clark, I know Louisville had a very rough season. The last 2 years have not been what Louisville basketball has been all about. But this is a guy, Mick Cronin, is looking specifically for a need to fill a role, right? What does UCLA need? More scoring and better three-point shooting. Consistency across the board. Sky Clark there's no confirmation. Crystal ball, though, to UCLA in the portal from 24/7 Sports. I looked on their transfer portal page. This is what it says. In Sky Clark's most recent game, 36 points, 12 of 17 shooting, 7 of 9 from 3, 36 points. Who did he do that against in the ACC tournament? Sweet 16 darlings, NC State. He did that against a team that wanted to run in the tournament, in their conference tournament. Now, the NCAA tournament, having won 7 in a row, Louisville obviously didn't get that dub. But he played well, and considering how well NC State's been playing and making a run against some Cinderellas and other big-name schools, that performance is eye-popping. The better NC State continues to play. Clark, 13 points per game, 35% from 3, about 41% from the floor, and a 77% free throw shooter. About 3 boards a game. His one thing that I wonder Mick Cronin will probably lose his mind over, more turnovers than assists. Clark is a bit of a turnover machine, but I think Cronin might be stepping back, right? We saw what Mack could do, but I wonder what this means for Sebastian Mack. Who's going to come back for UCLA? Who's not, right? if UCLA is going after depth scoring, whether it be on the bench, whether this guy's a sixth man, or he's your starting point, one or two, depending on how you roll with Dylan Andrews, who ended the year on such a high note and as the team's leading scorer, you want someone to be a consistent three-point shooter next to him. While Lazarus Stefanovic did get hot at the end of the year and was the leading three-point shooter, Sky Clark would be in competition for being the number one or two three-point shooter based on his numbers as a sophomore, right? So this is someone who UCLA is going after that's a 13-point per game scorer, averages more points than anybody on the UCLA roster. That's Andrews, Stefanovic, Bona, Mack, because Mack had a big scoring slump at the end of the year. So this guy, on the heels of some big performances down the stretch, including that 36-point game against NC State, that was huge. That's someone UCLA is looking after. He's crystal ball to UCLA. LA kid. Think of the Juzang. Could this be UCLA's next Juzang? Obviously, there's so many different ways the games and everything can work individually, right? But remember, UCLA going after someone in the state of Kentucky, a transfer coming back to SoCal. This could fit the bill. Now there's someone else who UCLA looked after that I was looking at the On3 recruiting analysts, and it was Alize Mason. He's from Missouri State, out of Phoenix, previously played at Oklahoma. So now you can get the vibe. Mick Cronin's going after guys who might have gotten that love from an initial Big 12 SEC school. Then you're going after someone who either bounced back, changed schools, had a big year, and that's who he's looking after. This kid in Mason is not in any way or shape or form, from what I've seen, a current crystal ball, but he has been reached out to. UCLA was on a list of schools that reached out to him. Not that he's going to be here or that I've seen. This is a guy who has 17.5 points per game in Missouri State after starting at Oklahoma a couple years. And whether he's committed by the time this episode is released or not, this more to push a point. That's someone who UCLA reached out to, averaging 17.5 points per game, 35% from three, 3.5 assists per game. If he was able to come to UCLA, that's a guy who I think fits the bill a little bit more for Mick Cronin, but he probably wants to go with Sky Clark, the LA kid, and someone who's put up big numbers against ACC schools. Well, Missouri State, not bad. This is a guy who probably fits the bill with more control in facilitating an offense, scores a lot of points. It seems like Mick Cronin might be heading towards the likes of Sky Clark with that crystal ball. You can see where he's going after these kids. What is Mason, 6'2", 175-pound senior West Coast kid from, maybe not West Coast, but western side of the United States, Phoenix, Arizona. Go get those guys who are looking to transfer the first, second time in their careers. They're now eligible. They've put up big numbers with opportunity, grown from year to year like Mason did, doubling his point production with significantly more minutes, only a small increase in turnovers, and his assists per game jumped nearly a complete assist per game with 20 more assists this year. So that's somebody who Mick Cronin wants to, one, facilitate the offense and score the basketball. Now, Clark seems more the pick as the crystal ball, but with Mason having told On3 that he has been reached out to by UCLA, the Bruins are going after guards. So you wonder, does that mean Adem Bona is going to stay? Is Bettor going to stay? Adai, who I think just talked to Bro Report, is undecided and unknown as he's currently spring breaking back home as to where he's going to be. So I wonder if we'll see more info. I think Mick Cronin, instead of those exit interviews you hear so quickly, he went hard into the portal. He's going to go after all these kids, see who he can get, and then he's going to tell which kids who need to leave. Because that's how ruthless it is. Free agency in college basketball, in college football, works like a kid can leave when he wants, and a coach can say, get out. That's how it works now. That's just how the game has evolved off the floor, off the court, when maintaining a roster. You're a GM, you're the CEO, and you're the coach. It's not like in the NBA where you got to deal with all the financials, salary caps, you got to deal with contracts, all the little crazy nonsense. And this transfer portal, NIL, it's a completely different ballgame. Cronin said he went to play. And with those couple of guards I've seen, it's clear what he's going after. Better three-point shooting, better elite scoring, proven elite scoring, or proven better scoring, better than what he's got, and then he's going to figure it out. Someone who can be that one or two scorer, not an option, Not an A or not a B or a C option. Someone who can go out and score and run an offense. I believe in the development of Dylan Andrews. I would love to see Sebastian Mack develop. But with all these guys, you wonder, is Mack staying? Is he getting bumped to the bench? Does Cronin want actual depth despite touting that all throughout the summer last year? And I believed him. I thought there'd be depth. In recent years, he's had very good teams, 7 to 8 deep. This year, we saw Cronin go deep in the bench, but yet it didn't lead to a winning season. So he's going after scoring. And the lack of emphasis on 7-footers or big men, I wonder what that means for the Bettor Ks and the Brandon Williams and the Devin Williams and the Dembonas of the world. Unless Cronin says, I need guards, I'm going to go back to my undersized big men and play small, but we can shoot the ball. Because clearly UCLA, who only averaged 66 points per game, needs more to score. All right? So Sky Clark crystal balled Mason a big idea of what UCLA is going after, even if he doesn't come to the Bruins, even if he's already committed by the time this podcast is released or whatever you watch this episode or listen to it. You can see what Cronin is going after. That's what the Bruins are trying to get. They knew where they were failing. Cronin probably knew. A little too late in the recruiting cycle to realize his team couldn't shoot. But here we go. Let's see how it goes. Are they going after Ivy Leaguers? Andrei Stojakovic, part 2? Those are all things we're going to look at in the future. But for now, the Bruins going after other players, west side of the United States, West Coast bound, going for their second transfer who've proven they can score the basketball at the elite level. And I think UCLA would be better off for it. And I wonder what it says about Bona. Happy birthday to him, by the way. Next, we talk about the team that's actually dancing, the UCLA women, because they've got high-profile matchups coming up next. We'll talk about that next as we talk more about what they did to fight and claw their way through the first couple of rounds without Lauren Betts first time and then down big at halftime against a scrappy Creighton Blue Jay bunch. Next on Locked On UCLA. This week's March Madness bracket highlights brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week we're picking one team that stands out, a team that's pushed it further than the rest. And just like all the new 2024 Nissan SUVs, these guys are able to take it to the next level. The Iowa State Cyclones can only be described as the Pathfinder, a Pathfinder. Thrilling to watch, and they've created a lane for themselves, entering the tournament as one of the hottest teams in the country. Now they got a date in the Sweet 16 coming up against Illinois. Take the Nissan Rogue, Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop Nissan USA today. Yes, NissanUSA.com today. Is your bracket already busted? Tired of the same old daily fantasy grind? When you make a roster, cross your fingers, hope for the best, losing on the last leg of your pick'em entry, let's introduce Bettor Together, the first cooperative daily fantasy platform. Teammates triumphs, teamwork triumphs talent. And you can play with your friends, not against them. Because pick more or less on real-time players, strategize with your partners to boost your odds and climb the leaderboard together. Grab your friend and join the social daily fantasy sports movement. All right, let's take a look. You're sitting there with your friend, you're like, man, I hope yours hits. Imagine cheering together, not for your buddy, not him for you, together. Make it happen. Because you can download Bettor Together from the App Store and sign up using the promo code Locked On for a free $5 entry into the NCAA basketball contest. Remember the code Locked On, because winning alone is fun, but it's better together. All right, second segment here of the Locked On UCLA podcast. Let's talk about the likes of UCLA women's hoops. They are on their way to playing the fighting, literally loudmouth Kim Mulkeys of the world, the Angel Reeses of the world, maybe the Washington Posts of the world. Who knows at this point with what LSU is coming up in the Sweet 16, the defending champs. You might have to play the defending national championship game teams back-to-back if UCLA gets through LSU and Iowa. That's if all the teams win, lose, advance. Everybody's hoping for LSU, Iowa, except for teams who watch the basketball and know that if UCLA plays their best, they're capable of beating both those teams by double figures. If UCLA plays their best basketball, they can beat both LSU and Iowa by double figures if they play their best basketball. Like, clearly, they can go beat those teams. Now, away from home, across the country, everybody tuning in to watch these games, whether it's early Saturday morning or a prime time affair against Iowa, whatever it might be, if you Bruins can get that far, this is elite level time. But we're not going to talk about that right now. I'm excited. Our next episode, we're going to go in the nitty-gritty as to specific keys for why UCLA can and need what they need to do to beat LSU specifically. I'm going to talk about what UCLA did against Creighton to fight through after Lauren Betts missed the first round game against CBU, what they did to beat Creighton, and most importantly, who's the X factor moving forward. UCLA against Creighton in a late Monday night game, they won 67-63. Maybe not late, but late on the East Coast because they hate anything that starts after 8:30. They bicker and moan. The Bruins beat the Blue Jays of Creighton, who had come in a top 25 team, took down another good team in UNLV, and gave UCLA all they could handle in this game, where UCLA down a point in the quarter, down 8 at the half, had to fight all the way back to tie this game by the time the third quarter was done. And a defensive slugfest of a fourth quarter, UCLA outscored the Blue Jays 11-7, where in the first 3 quarters, one of the two teams had posted at least 20 points. Then both teams had a significant decrease in the defensive slugfest in front of a crowd that was about 7,800 strong. Creighton did what they needed to do. They played clean, crisp basketball. Only 7 turnovers, 17 assists to 7 turnovers, 17 assists to 26 made shots. They didn't blow the Bruins away by shooting the 3 ball, but they made 43% of them, 45% of their shots. What helped the Bruins, though, was not putting Creighton on the line. And despite significant struggles from 3 for UCLA, a couple of made by Kiki Rice, the Bruins were able to get the job done by scrapping and clawing because Kiki Rice is absolutely a superstar. When you see it, all the players, you put a documentary or those little docu-series that they've been promoting and hyping up with the Caitlin Clarks, everybody, and you put Kiki Rice on there, that's how important Kiki is to this team. 24 points, 6 boards, 3 assists, 0 turnovers in 38 minutes played for someone who got to the line, made better than 50% of her shots. That is the determined leader as a sophomore making plays. Yeah, she's not going to go out, hit 50-foot threes or wow the crowd that way. She's that sneaky, control the game player that when it's going to come down against the other team's best guards, best players, and she beats them, it might not always need to be flashy, but she can go beat you down the court and get easy buckets. Because UCLA generally needs 2 scores. A lot of the time it's been Lauren Betts, who came back after somewhat surprisingly missing the first round game because of a late injury just prior to the game. And then a 20-10 performance in her return. Great to see her have a double-double and find a way to score the basketball. But she can't score 40 points every game. I mean, sometimes she can certainly try. But UCLA needs perimeter scoring, another attacker when the lane is opened up by someone going after Betts and clogging and caring for Charisma Osborne offensively. The Bruins got it from Kiki Rice and Lauren Betts. Now, what was interesting to see was that a lot of some premier scorers for UCLA struggling in game 2. Dugalich, 6 points, 25 minutes, didn't get a lot of shots, but turned it over 4 times. Osborne, practically quiet till the end of the game, 5 points. London Jones, you would tell me in a game against a top 25 team where London Jones and Charisma Osborne combined for 5 points on 2 for 12 shooting, and they're down 8 going in the second half at home in a tournament game, I would say things aren't looking good there. And they weren't. They weren't for a little bit there. But then, despite Gabby Hawkins not hitting a bunch of threes, 8 crucial points. How much were the Bruins down by at that break? 8. So you get 8 off your bench. You got a couple of shots, 11 rebounds from Hawkins to lead the team. So the scrappy Gabby Hawkins coming in and getting a lot of rebounds to lead the team. Sometimes it's not always about the points scored, but her crucial buckets and the rebounds, huge. And think about Cam Brown. You get that wily veteran. What was touted as, yes, Charisma Osborne coming back, your vocal leader from the bench in Cameron Brown, who, when you look at the social media posts for UCLA women's basketball, who do they always like to highlight? Yes, bets can be funny. Charisma was on Sports Center. Everybody wants to talk to Kiki Rice. But you know who's the funny one? It's Cam Brown. Because if you looked at her mic'd up during practice, super funny. And she's not always the scorer, doesn't get 30 minutes per game. But her presence and the staff wanting her back one extra year with Osborne. And sometimes, hey, what do those super seniors do? Maybe they score 2 points. Maybe they score 4 points in 14 minutes like Brown did. How much did UCLA win this game by? They won by 4 points. Yes, they won by 4 points. And who scored 4 points? Cam Brown. That's something that's understated, that if UCLA can continue to go and get wins, this just even a little 14 productive minutes there. Huge. And there'll be times when Iawala or Zontag have to do things. This time it was Brown's productive 14 minutes, a couple of buckets, got it done. Because in the game where UCLA turned it over 13 times, a number that was 6 more than Creighton, 15 personal fouls, but they did not put Creighton on the line as much, which is unique. While the Bruins shot 14 free throws, they were able to scrap and claw and get their way back in this game. They got on the break a little bit, second chance points with 14, 36 points in the paint, but it was the second chance points where UCLA was able to fight back. +9 in second chance points. UCLA just beat Creighton a little bit in points in the paint with the Lauren Betts opportunity because they fought off the likes of Lauren Jensen, who scored 20 points, Morgan Malley with 18, and Emily Rosiak with 14, right? They had 3 double-digit scores. UCLA had 2, and the Bruins, they had a little bit of depth. They tried to use it as much as they could in this game against Creighton, and they got the job done. And it was even close against CBU in round 1, right? It was even close early, and you're like, uh-oh, allow Rowdy Lancer's section going Lance up or whatever in Pauley Pavilion. In addition to no Lauren Betts, they were a little scared early, and then they pulled away and dominated CBU. Wasn't the case against Creighton, who ironically was pretty good, pretty much a top 25 team, got blown out twice by UConn, like twice, in front of a rowdy home crowd, went to UConn, lost by like 40. And remember, UCLA took care of UConn on a neutral floor easily. Now, UConn's a different team. They've played within system quite a bit now. So it's interesting that they struggled with Creighton, a team that could not handle UConn whatsoever, while the UCLA Bruins beat UConn early this year on a neutral floor. It was a close game, but not easily, but they controlled the game. So where does UCLA need to go next? What needs to work for the Bruins initially? Who is that X factor for UCLA to go beat Iowa if they get there? And if Iowa gets there, I would think so. And to beat LSU, because you're on the East Coast. Everyone wants to go see Iowa and LSU. So there's crazy amounts of Elite Eight numbers. But if you want to go spoil the women's college basketball viewing numbers, UCLA is the team that is going to ruin the Final Four, the national championship game, the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight. And if they want to do it, it's going to come down to one player. One player. Kiki, yes, amazing. Needs the ball out. Lauren Betts, they need that. The reason UCLA is top 5, top 10 good this year. But to win these games, yeah, you can get a Cam Brown 4 points, but you need the likes of London Jones. London Jones this year, the guard from Centennial out of Riverside, who can light it up from downtown. Recently, 3 of 21 from 3 in the last few games. Now, let's remind you what those games were. Double overtime loss to USC in the Pac-12 tournament semis. CBU, she went 3 of 10, but still 3 of 13 from the floor. And then Creighton, 0 of 3 from downtown. 15 minutes and 0 of 4 from the floor. This is the same person who put up a dominant performance against Utah. 7 of 10 from downtown. Against USC earlier this year, was able to hit a bunch of clutch threes to win the game. 5 of 8, 8 of 12 from the floor, where she put up 21 points and the Bruins beat USC. Vast difference from the 0 for 8 later in the year. You're hard pressed to see UCLA dominate teams when London Jones doesn't score a lot and doesn't hit a couple of threes. It's one thing for her to go 2 of 7. Generally, that's enough for UCLA to win 2 of 6, 4 of 6, right? But when she's on fire, 4 of 6, hitting some threes, the Bruins dominate teams. They beat really solid programs when she's hitting threes and at a high clip, or when they're down big, her three-point shooting can get them back in the game. Like when they lost to Washington State, she shot well, but that speaks to the importance of Lauren Betts, who missed that Wazoo game. She went 5 of 9, and the Bruins almost came back down 17 in the second half. So for Jones, who shoots 37% from three, 37% from the floor, though, she gets red hot from downtown. The Bruins just win. You don't beat UCLA when their three-point sharpshooter is hitting shots. Osborne can go put in a 30-piece. They got players who can go do big performances. But when Osborne shoots the ball really, really well, and mind you, she's started shooting 37%. That's with her only making 3 of her last 21 threes. So her percentage has dipped. 37% is pretty solid, closer to a 40%. So if she can get over that slump, get it going during a game, then UCLA will be better off for it. Because if she makes some threes, I'm sorry, LSU and Kim Mulkey, you can go talk to the Washington Post back at home and not during the NCAA tournament if Jones is hitting some threes. And I think she's due. Absolutely she's due. Whether they're having, as Ben Bolch puts in his LA Times stories, the trash-talking scout players, whether they got people trying to bring in the trash talkers to push everything, right? No. UCLA's got to be prepared for this moment. We're going to go more specifics. UCLA LSU next episode. We'll talk a little bit more portal and UCLA men's hoops and football next episode. But hey, there's the key for UCLA to get and ruin the tournament numbers this year. All right? In the meantime, stay tuned, Locked On UCLA fans. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. They offer amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, and remember the Fire TV stick, plug it into your existing TV, access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether you're watching opening day, opening weekend for baseball, which is about to start, the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have Fire TV because they recently created Fire TV channels. You've got all your favorite sports brands, all for free, including all of us here at Locked On, with big pro leagues, college conferences as well. Dive into big-time game analysis, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and a lot more. Also, news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos. We love a good cooking video. Check out Fire TV on Fire TV and Alexa devices. Because if you haven't checked it out, you should. Trust me on this. Learn more at Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. That's Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. All right, cruising on. We're going to wrap things up with an 8 clap, baby. Get your hands up, UCLA fans. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.